A raised bed can look flawless on Saturday and begin failing by midsummer. The cedar corners are square, the soil is dark, and the tomato cages are ready. But water pools at one end, the center is too far to reach, and the soil sinks until roots bake near the surface. The wooden box gets blamed, even though the decisive choices were buried before the first board went up. A durable raised bed starts under the box. Today we are going to build one from the ground down, then bring it back to the surface. Begin with a question that can save a surprising amount of work. What problem is the raised bed supposed to solve? It can create a better growing area over compacted or poorly drained soil, separate food crops from contaminated ground, make gardening easier to reach, or define a small productive space. If your native soil is healthy, workable, and well drained, an in-ground bed may need fewer materials, less imported soil, and less irrigation. That choice changes everything below the frame. A low, open-bottom bed placed on healthy soil behaves much like an improved in-ground garden. Vegetable roots can move into the soil beneath it, so the wooden wall does not define the entire root zone. A bed built over concrete, contaminated soil, or an effective root barrier behaves more like a giant container. Its plants depend much more heavily on the depth, drainage, and water holding capacity inside the frame. Before disturbing the ground, learn what is already there. Old painted buildings, former industrial use, unknown fill, heavy traffic, and other site history can justify special soil testing. Your local cooperative extension office or public soil laboratory can help identify the right test. If contamination is suspected, do not casually blend the old soil into clean fill. A raised bed with verified clean soil and covered paths may reduce contact, but the barrier and management plan should match the contaminant and local public health advice. Now watch the empty side after rain. A raised box can improve the soil around roots, but it cannot make water disappear from a sunken corner. Mark the direction of runoff, ponding areas, roof downspouts, irrigation spray, and slopes. Water should drain safely without collecting against the frame, a house foundation, or a neighboring property. A bed on an impermeable patio needs a reliable outlet for excess water, while an open-bottom bed needs usable soil below rather than a sealed basin. The same site check should include sunlight, tree roots, fences, utilities, and access to water. Food crops vary, but many fruiting vegetables need a bright location. Nearby trees can cast changing shade and compete below ground. Before digging, trenching an irrigation line, or driving long anchors, contact 811 and follow your state's locating requirements. Private irrigation, lighting, well, or septic lines may require separate attention. Once the ground makes sense, design around the gardener. Lay string or a garden hose where the bed edges might go. Then kneel, sit, or stand beside the outline and reach toward the center. You should be able to tend the soil without stepping into it. Extension guides often use about 4 feet as a practical maximum when adults can work from both sides, but a bed approached from only one side needs to be narrower. Your reach, balance, mobility, and tools matter more than a catalog diagram. Do the same experiment with the paths. Push the actual wheelbarrow through the planned gate, carry a watering can, turn around with a harvest basket. Leave space for hoses, trellises, open doors, and plants that spill over an edge. A person using a wheelchair or walker may need a firm, level surface and more turning room. Local accessibility standards and the gardener's body should set the dimensions, not one national number. Height is another trade-off, not a universal recipe. A taller bed can reduce bending and create more contained root space, especially over a hard surface. It also requires more fill, places tall or trellised crops higher, and may dry differently from the ground nearby. A shallow frame over good open soil can support many vegetables because roots continue downward. Over pavement or unsuitable soil, crop rooting depth and drainage inside the bed become far more important. Choose height after deciding what lies below, who will use the bed and what will grow there. Only now is it time to choose the frame. Untreated rot-resistant wood, Modern residential treated lumber, metal kits, masonry, and composite materials each bring different costs, lifespans, fasteners, and maintenance. Current micronized copper-treated lumber is not the same product as older chromated copper arsenate lumber. Manufacturing CCA lumber for homeowner uses ended more than 2 decades ago, but that material can still appear in salvaged wood. Avoid railroad ties and lumber with an unknown treatment history around food crops. Follow current product labels, local extension guidance, and safe cutting and disposal practices. Never burn treated scraps. The frame also has to resist the outward pressure of wet soil. Long wooden sides may need bracing, masonry needs a stable base, and tall manufactured beds should follow their assembly instructions. If you line the sides to separate soil from a material, keep drainage in mind. Do not accidentally turn the bottom into a bathtub. Hardware cloth can be useful where burrowing animals are a documented problem, while a full bottom barrier belongs to a specific contamination or site plan rather than every raised bed. The middle of this project is where the budget often disappears. Soil weighs more and costs more than the empty box suggests. Calculate the interior length, width, and average fill depth before ordering anything. A 4-foot by 8-foot bed filled 1 foot deep holds 32 cubic feet, a little more than 1 cubic yard. Several beds multiply that volume quickly, and a narrow gate can turn every delivery into a hand-carrying job. Good raised bed soil is not a box full of compost. Finished compost adds organic matter, but soil also needs a mineral component that supports structure, water storage, and nutrient balance. Current extension recommendations vary by region and by whether the bed sits over soil or pavement, so use a reputable soil source and a locally appropriate soil and compost mix. Blend compatible materials instead of leaving abrupt layers, and test the finished mix before guessing at lime or fertilizer. Fresh fill will settle as loose material consolidates and organic matter decomposes. Leave room to top up the bed, but do not bury plant crowns or keep piling amendments into an untested mix. Excess nutrients and soluble salts can damage crops just as surely as a shortage. A soil test turns a dark, impressive-looking pile into information you can actually manage. If planning like this helps you avoid expensive garden do-overs, subscribe to Pollinator. The box and soil are ready, but the first summer will reveal whether the water system was designed with equal care. Raised beds often warm and dry faster than nearby ground, especially when they are elevated, exposed to wind, or built over pavement. Drip tubing or a soaker hose can place water near roots, but no emitter layout creates a universal schedule. Check moisture within the root zone, account for rainfall and current weather, and adjust for crop size and soil texture. Surface mulch can reduce evaporation and protect soil from pounding rain, while still allowing you to inspect moisture underneath. Think about repair before burying irrigation under a permanent structure. Filters clog, lines leak, and connections eventually need service. Keep shutoffs reachable and root tubing where it can be inspected without emptying the bed. If different beds hold sandy mixes, deep-rooted crops, or thirsty seedlings, they may not belong on the same watering zone. Now the plants can enter the design. Sketch their mature footprints rather than arranging small transplants by the amount of bare soil between them. Give trellised crops a place where they will not shade shorter plants at the wrong time of day. Keep perennial herbs or long-lived crops where they will not block an annual bed that needs regular renewal. Plan harvest access before foliage closes every gap. You do not have to choose between one crop per box and a botanical traffic jam. Mixed planting can add diversity, flowers, herbs, and habitat, but every plant still uses light, root space, and water. Pair crops because their growth habits and management fit, not because an online chart promises one plant will magically protect another. If a pest appears, identify it first and use regional integrated pest management guidance before reaching for a remedy. The soil should have a plan between harvests too. Crop rotations, cover crops suited to the season, mulch, and living roots can protect the surface and support soil life. The right sequence depends on climate, planting calendar, pest history, and how long a bed is vacant. A local extension planting guide will be more honest than a national calendar that treats Maine and Southern California as the same garden. Before duplicating the design across the yard, build one bed and live with it through real weather. Watch the first hard rain. See whether the cart reaches every side, whether the center is comfortable to tend, whether the soil mix holds moisture without staying saturated, and whether the tallest crop can be harvested safely. A prototype turns assumptions into observations while changes are still manageable. Turn to that polished bed from the opening. Its square corners were never the whole project. Beneath the frame are native soil, drainage, utility lines, and a decision about root access. Around it are paths, turning space, irrigation, and the gardener's future body. Inside it are mineral soil, compost, air, water, living roots, and enough room for a crop to mature. The box is only the visible rim of that system. Build from the ground down, test from the first rain onward, and the raised bed above it finally has a chance to work the way it looked on that first Saturday.